So before I talk about the Nikon ZR, I just want to answer a comment that was on one of my videos. I have no connection to Nikon at all. I don't get any discount from them. I don't get any free stuff from them. Nothing. I pay for all my camera gear myself. The Nikon Z8, Z6 Mark III, and the ZR I bought with my own money. This lens you see on the camera has been sent to me by Thypoch. This is the Thypoch Simera-C 35mm T1.5, not f1.5, and it's a cinema lens, so it's all manual focus. Now I have it in like a M mount, and they've sent me this adapter, which is like a M mount to like a Z mount, and it's a lock-in adapter. Now before I take this lens off, I just want to talk about the grip on this camera. I have seen a lot of people complain about the grip. It doesn't bother me. I think it's quite a comfortable grip, and it works really well for me because I use two hands to shoot. I don't use one hand. I'm not holding like this. If you were holding it like this, yes, you'd find it uncomfortable. But your hands underneath the lens stabilizing it, especially for handheld shots, I think the grip's fine. Now the Nikon ZR body is actually quite small. I did mention this in my unboxing video. It's the same size as my Leica M11P. The height, the length is the same. It's a little bit thicker, obviously, because it has a flip screen and it has a much bigger mount than the M mount. You can see how big they are. Look, the difference between the two. That's how small and compact this camera is. It's built like a tank. I was really surprised at how well built this was. I wasn't expecting a $2,100 US camera to be built this well. This is $4,000 in New Zealand, which is still makes it a very cheap camera considering what it can do. The buttons are really nice. It's what you expect from a Nikon camera. They are nice and solid and built well. It's a really nice camera to hold in the hand. It's very small. You can always make a smaller camera bigger. You can't make a bigger camera smaller. Compared to my Z8, which I'm recording on at the moment, this is a tiny camera. It is just a beautiful camera. It's just really, really well made. The grip on the front here is really nice as well. And this groove works well for me. Like I said, I hold it with two hands, and that fits my hand really well. You can make the grip bigger if you want. You can use something like this small rig cage. Now I got this cage free because I purchased the camera here in New Zealand, and they were giving these away free with pre-orders. I personally don't like using this cage when I'm out and about, because it makes the camera feel like a Z6 Mark III, which is what I'm shooting on there, the B camera. So I don't use this cage for when I'm out and about, but I can see myself using this cage if I'm going to be using the camera in a more controlled environment, because it does have this HDMI lock here, because the ZR has a micro HDMI. Now if you are going to use the HDMI port on that, I recommend this cable. Not sponsored by Condor Blue. I've got quite a few of their cables actually. I've got a few here. I buy all these cables myself. I found out of all of the HDMI cables I've used, this is by far the best. It works as it should, and this is really solid. This is not going to snap very easily here. Plus with the clamp on the smaller cage, it's going to hold this in place, and it's very deep, the actual outer casing on this micro HDMI. So I do recommend the Condor Blue HDMI cable. I'll put a link to this down below in the description. And again, like I said, not sponsored. I bought these cables myself. Nikon are the first company to put a 4-inch screen on a camera, and I absolutely love this screen. It makes everything look better because the screen's bigger. You don't really need an external monitor on this because it sits in the middle of a 3-inch and a 5-inch screen. The hinge mechanism is really strong. I was a little bit worried because it's such a big screen, but this hinge mechanism is really strong. You can feel it when you move the screen around. So one issue I do have with this screen is because my thumb sits on the side here and the screen is so big, my thumb every now and then touches the screen. And if I'm using touch focusing, which I really like on the screen, the focus point disappears up in the top corner. I have looked through the menu and I couldn't find a way that you can block out part of the screen or the surrounding edge of the screen with the touch focusing. If you know how to do that, please let me know down in the comment section. I am still trying to work my way through these menus. I don't think it does it, and I would like Nikon to add that in a firmware update, that you can actually add a dead zone to the screen, so that it's top corner, so my thumb's not on it when I'm using the camera and using touch focusing. But apart from that, I absolutely love this screen. It's more user error than anything else. It's not the screen's fault, it's me, the way I'm holding the camera. But if they can add a dead zone in the top corner here, so your thumb's resting on it and it doesn't do anything, that'd be great, because I don't think you're going to be focusing in the top corner anyway. But that's the only issue I have with the screen. Everything else I love about the screen. And it's actually quite nice to take photos with this camera, because you obviously just flick the switch over, and such a big screen, it's really easy to frame the shot up. So I don't really miss the EVF on this camera, and because the screen is so bright and you can see it in daytime, you don't really need the EVF. I know a lot of people want the EVF, but it would make the camera bigger. When I was setting the camera up, I wanted to use the internal microphones, these amazing microphones that it's got built in, when shooting Red RAW. But from what I found in the menu, you can't use these internal microphones when shooting Red RAW. You have to use something like the Nikon microphone that they've now developed and you can buy for the ZR, which only works with the Nikon ZR. It doesn't work with any other Nikons at the moment. I think all future Nikons, this will definitely work with it, but only works with the ZR. So you can't use these internal microphones when shooting Red RAW, which is a bit of a shame because it would keep the camera size down quite a bit. You can now edit Red, R3D, NE, RAW files in Final Cut Pro. Red have released an update, I think it's a couple of weeks ago. I'll put a link to that update down below in the description. I'll also put a link to the Nikon page for the LUTs and everything else that's in conjunction with the Nikon ZR and Red. So you can head over there because it took me a while to find that. So I'll put a link down there so it's easier for you guys to find. This is the rocker switch on the front, which is for a power zoom, but also to punch in on your image, basically. You can zoom in on your image and check focus, especially if you're using a lens like this Thypoch Simera, which is an incredibly good lens, but you do need to check it's in focus, obviously, and you can punch in and out with this zoom rocker, which works really well. Now, while I'm talking about the zoom rocker, which is what I'm going to be calling it, the button 1 here, I've reprogrammed. I've reprogrammed this for focusing. I don't focus from the front shutter button or the record button. I'm focusing now with button 1, and then the record button will just start and stop record. It will not focus. I find that works much easier for me because I like back button focusing, but there is nowhere to back button focus here. There's no room for it, to be truthful. So I've reprogrammed button 1 to focus, and then the record button is just to start and stop record. Somebody asked me what the photo files are like on the ZR. They look exactly the same with the Z6 because it's the same sensor. They do look the same. They don't look any different to me. And it's quite nice taking photos with such a big screen. It's quite nice just to frame up the shot. Everything just looks better with a big screen, to be truthful, but it works really well, and the photos look exactly the same as the Z6 Mark III, which are really nice looking photos. So I've switched back to Nikon. I have the Z8, the Z6 Mark III, and the ZR, and I have a few lenses as well. There's a couple of lenses I recommend for the ZR if you're just starting out with Nikon. If this is your first time shooting with Nikon, you want to get a couple of lenses. It's these two lenses, which is the 28mm 2.8 and the 40mm f2. These are incredibly good lenses for the price. I still can't get over how good the image quality is from the 28mm 2.8 and the 40mm f2, and they're so compact. They do look like they're old retro lenses. I'll show you on here. I'll show you this adapter in a minute. This is an old 50 f1.4. I absolutely love this lens. I paid $50 for this lens. It's getting a little bit stiff to focus now, but it still works really well, and it has such a nice classic look to it, but they look the same. They've made them look the same. Then the nice thing with both these lenses is they're covering a nice focal range, 28 and 40mm. They're both 52mm on the front, so you're using the same filter. And then you can add to that by buying some cheaper Nikon stuff from the old film days. This is an old Nikon ND. This cost me $20 New Zealand for this ND, and it's in perfect condition, and that's a 52mm. And you can also use these old hoods, which was actually the hood for this lens, and they just screw straight on. So you can screw it on top of the filter. It's 52mm. So if you want a hood, you can add a hood to these lenses, and these are really cheap because these are old Nikon hoods for their old film lenses, and it works fine. It looks great on there, and there's an ND on there. These are really nice lenses, and I do highly recommend these lenses. If you're starting out with a Nikon ZR and you just want a couple of lenses that cover a good focal range, go for these because you can get these really cheap secondhand. These are the vintage or retro version. They do just a plain black version, which works really well, but the only problem is, if I can show you there, it's got a plastic mount. I haven't found any issues with that. I don't think there's going to be any problems with it. It does make the lenses lighter, but it does also make it feel a little bit cheaper. I don't know why Nikon did that. I did mention that in my previous video, but I do recommend these two lenses. Let me find it. Where is it? They're the 40mm and the 28, because they are really cheap, incredibly good image quality, and you can get some nice accessories that were for these old film lenses. Now, if you are going to use old Nikon lenses, I would recommend this adapter. I've looked at quite a few adapters now. This is KF Concept, this adapter. Now, this adapter will do the old AI lenses, AIS, F-mount lenses, and the newer G series lenses that Nikon had with autofocus. So you can use this ring here to change the aperture on the G series lenses. I would call this a dumb adapter because it doesn't obviously give you any autofocus. There's no terminals on the back, and it doesn't come with this rear cap. I 3D printed this one because it didn't come with one, so I 3D printed one, and it works incredibly well on these older lenses. So if you want to adapt these lenses to the ZR or any Nikon Z mount, this is a really good adapter. It will cover all of the Nikon F mount lenses right up to the G series. So we'll have another video in a couple of weeks on the Nikon ZR and the Thypoch Simera-C 35mm T1.5 cinema lens. And in that video, obviously, I'm going to talk about the lens and the adapter they sent me, and also the red R3D NE RAW files that are coming out of this camera. So keep an eye out for that video. That will be coming out soon. But before that one, you're going to have a video on the Leica M11D, the Oberwerth shoulder bag, and there's another video I've got to do. Oh yeah, I've got another M-mount lens that I've been sent, but I can't talk about that because it's not been released yet. So there will be a video on that and some other stuff if I can fit it in over the next couple of weeks. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoy this video. And as always, thank you so much for watching.